I had friends say, hey, you should go see this buddy of mine who's an executive coach. And I'm like, okay, that sounds good. I mean, I need an executive coach. And I go and I'm like halfway into the conversation, I'm like, you're a therapist pretending to be an executive coach. So people like me will ask for help. And he really helped me kind of unlock some things that were more about sadness that I would always have labeled as a frustration or, an irritation. And he's like, no, dude, you're sad. You're sad about these things, and that's okay, but you need to be able to identify it. And that was a big deal for me.
Give me an example of that. That's I'm curious about that.
So one of the things he did is he said, when's the last time you were sad? And I'm like, I don't know. To me, sadness did not feel like a masculine trait. It's not something that I, had thought much about. But he said, I want you to write down 3 times this week that you're sad. I'm like, all right, I'll try. And so I had this family from the church that said that I knew pretty well, that said they were leaving. They're frustrated with some different things. And I was pretty frustrated with them. I was not angry, but, close to it. And I was sharing this with him. And he stopped me while I was venting about it. And he's like, hey, let me ask you, are you angry that they're leaving, or are you sad that they're leaving? And just like that, I'm like, oh man, I'm sad. I'm sad that they're leaving. And that totally changed for me how I processed it and how I talked to them about it, instead of going to them and saying, being defensive and, I went to them and just sat down and said, man, I love you guys. I'm really sad about this. And it was so much healthier as a way to process it and deal with it than to be frustrated and try to control it.
Yeah, Kyle, I want to go back really quick to one thing you said. It wasn't like these horrible things you were doing that people were saying. For you, even just your wife highlighting, like, when did you come home and start like laying on the couch, going on your phone? Yeah. Like, oftentimes we're looking for the terrible, shady things. And sometimes we run to those things. We start depending on alcohol or pornography or whatever. But I just thought that was powerful. That was one of the things that were mentioned. Go back to the rhythms. So to kind of get back on the right path, what is a rhythm? Yeah. What do those look like?
For me, the rhythms needed to be addressed by not so much like how I'm spending my time, as far as the calendar days I was taking on. I was doing okay with all of that. Spending time with my family, I was doing okay with all of that.
Yeah.
It's that when I was in those moments, I wasn't present. I didn't feel, energized. I was there, but I had, my tank was pretty empty, which came down to, more of what I guess I would call a rhythm of responsibilities. Like, the things I was spending my time on were wearing me out. And so even though I was technically keeping a schedule that was, wise, I was so, emotionally worn out that I needed to change my responsibilities, so that when I was at home and when I was present, I could be more engaged, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Share about like addressing that, the responsibility part. Then this is, you're preaching right at myself, by the way, right now.
Well, I transitioned into this role as senior pastor, and I'd been here on staff for a long time, and we transitioned to the role without really transitioning responsibilities and leadership and things like that. And one of the things I really underestimated was, I'm going to use the word selfish, even though that's probably not a fair word, is that I kind of needed to be a little bit selfish about who I had around me, who was able to, take parts of the job that were hard for me. And that was different than the guy that I followed, so I needed to make some changes there that reflected my strengths and compensated for my weaknesses. To me, it's like if you were a head football coach and you go to take over a program and you don't bring in any of your own assistant coaches, and you're running the other coach's offense, you're just going to wear yourself out. Like you need to be able to say, okay, here are a few people I really need to have around me, and here's the offense that I, feel like God wants me to run. And so those were some of the adjustments that really helped